A single paraffin tea candle weighs half an ounce. It costs 12 cents. It burns for approximately 4 to 6 hours on its own, producing roughly 80 BTUs of heat, which is to say almost nothing. If you light one in an open room, you will not feel it from 2 feet away. Now place that same candle underneath a 4-inch unglazed terracotta flower pot, inverted, with a larger pot stacked over the first. The heat the candle produces has nowhere to escape. It concentrates inside the clay. The clay absorbs the thermal energy. The inner pot reaches 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The outer pot stabilizes at around 150 degrees. And the entire assembly begins to radiate heat outward into the room in every direction, continuously, silently, for as long as the candle burns. 2 pots, 1 candle, $2.32. Enough concentrated radiant heat to make a 10 by 10 foot room comfortable in 20-degree weather. Enough to keep a bedroom warm through the night. Enough to heat a sewing corner, a reading nook, a workshop, a greenhouse, an ice fishing shack, or a cabin in the woods. This was not a novelty. It was not a survival trick. In 1934, it was in every farm journal, every popular mechanics, every home economics pamphlet. And then, sometime after the war, it vanished. From every publication, every magazine, every textbook, all at once. The American residential heating market generates $200 billion a year. The natural gas utility industry alone collects $130 billion annually from American households. Electric heating companies collect another $60 billion. Heating oil delivery adds $15 billion. The HVAC installation and service industry pulls in another $130 billion on top of that. The average American household spends between $2,000 and $3,000 every year just to heat their home during the 5 to 7 months of cold weather. In northern states, that number routinely exceeds $4,000. In homes with older furnaces or poor insulation, it can exceed $6,000. A new gas furnace costs between $4,000 and $7,000 to install. It lasts 15 to 20 years. Over the lifetime of a single furnace, including fuel, maintenance, replacement parts, and service calls, the average homeowner spends between $40,000 and $70,000 on centralized heating. That is, before you account for the cost of electric space heaters in rooms the central system cannot reach, and the $300 a year those space heaters add to the electric bill. Count the heat sources in your home right now. A central furnace, a water heater, a fireplace or wood stove, 1 or 2 electric space heaters, an electric blanket, heated seats in the car, maybe an infrared heating pad, each one purchased, each one running on gas, oil, or electricity. Each one sending money every single month to a utility company or a manufacturer. Over a 30-year homeownership period, the average family sends between $70,000 and $120,000 to the heating industry. That is more than most people spend on their cars, more than most people spend on college. To solve a problem that was solved in 1933, for the price of a newspaper, the $2 heater has no pilot light, no gas line, no electrical draw, no furnace filter, no annual service contract, no carbon monoxide risk, no thermostat, no installation fee, no replacement cycle. It has wax, it has fire, it has clay, it heats a room, it always has. The reason you have never seen one is not because it stopped working. It is because a $200 billion industry cannot survive if you learn to heat a room for $2. Every bill your grandfather refused to pay, you now pay 12 times a year. Every problem he solved with clay and wax, you solve with a monthly invoice. The entire modern heating economy is built on one assumption, that you never find out what he built in his own kitchen for free, in the middle of the worst financial collapse in American history. Before 1940, only about half of American homes had central heating of any kind. The rest relied on wood stoves, coal stoves, fireplaces, kerosene heaters, and a category of supplemental heat that home economists of the era simply called point source radiant. Candle heaters, oil lamps under clay, small charcoal braziers, heated bricks wrapped in cloth. Soapstones warmed on a stove and carried to bed. These were not emergency measures. They were the way Americans actually lived. In 1938, the American Gas Association, a trade organization representing natural gas utilities, had a combined annual revenue of approximately $200 million. By 1960, after 2 decades of federally subsidized pipeline construction and an aggressive domestic marketing campaign, the same industry generated over $8 billion, a 40-fold increase. Adjusted for inflation, it remains one of the fastest commercial transformations in American history, That expansion was not accidental. Between 1946 and 1962, the Federal Natural Gas Act was rewritten 3 separate times to favor utility expansion into residential markets. The Federal Power Commission approved pipeline construction at a pace of over 4,000 miles per year. And the American Gas Association, together with the Edison Electric Institute, funded a domestic marketing operation designed to do one thing: convince the American household that heating a single room was primitive, unsafe, and insufficient. The campaign was called Live Better Electrically on the electric side. Gas makes the big difference on the gas side. The strategy was identical. Partner with appliance manufacturers. Sponsor daytime radio and television. Place advertisements in every women's magazine in circulation. And systematically reframe the concept of heating to mean whole house central forced air. Anything less was portrayed as backward. Dangerous, the habit of the poor. By 1965, home economics curricula across the country had been quietly revised. The 1934 edition of the United States Department of Agriculture's Farmer's Bulletin, number 1786, contained a full chapter on point source heating methods, including candle and clay assemblies. The 1965 edition did not. The chapter was simply removed. No explanation, no replacement. A 2013 study by the School of Mechanical Engineering at Loughborough University in the United Kingdom measured the thermal output of a standard terracotta flower pot assembly heated by a single tea candle. The results confirmed radiant heat output of approximately 90 to 110 watts, enough to meaningfully affect the temperature of a small, well-insulated room. The study was published. It was replicated by 2 separate university groups. It was never cited in a single American heating industry publication, not banned outright. Just never mentioned again in any utility brochure, any HVAC training manual, or any consumer heating guide printed after 1958. The assembly has 4 components. Every one of them is available at any hardware store, garden center, or grocery store in America. The entire system costs less than $3. Here is exactly what each piece does, why it works, and how to build it. Asterisk Component 1. The candle. A standard paraffin tea candle, also called a tea light, costs between 8 and 15 cents when purchased in a bulk pack of 100. A single tea light burns for 4 to 6 hours and produces approximately 80 to 100 BTUs per hour. That number is low. On its own, a tea light heats nothing. It is the concentration of that heat, not the quantity, that makes the system work. For longer burns, a beeswax or soy pillar candle extends runtime to 8, 10, or 12 hours depending on size. A standard 4-inch beeswax pillar costs $2 to $3 and burns for roughly 40 hours of total use, which comes out to about 7 cents per hour of heat. That is 10 times cheaper than natural gas heat per unit of delivered warmth in a small enclosed space. Component 2. The inner pot. Asterisk. A standard 4-inch unglazed terracotta flower pot costs between 80 cents and $1.20 at any garden center. Terracotta is fired clay with a thermal mass density of approximately 1.8 grams per cubic centimeter. That density, combined with a specific heat capacity of 0.85 joules per gram per degree, means the clay is capable of absorbing a large quantity of heat, holding it and slowly releasing it as radiation. The physics is critical. When the candle flame contacts the inner surface of the pot, the clay does not transmit that heat quickly. It stores it. The temperature of the clay rises steadily until it reaches equilibrium, typically around 300 degrees Fahrenheit for the inner pot. At that point, the clay becomes a radiating surface, emitting infrared heat in every direction, exactly the way a cast iron stove radiates heat after the fire has died down. Asterisk Component 3. The outer pot. A 6-inch unglazed terracotta pot costs between $1 and $2. Invert it and place it over the inner pot, leaving a 1/2 inch to 1 inch air gap between the two. This second pot serves 3 purposes. First, it creates an insulating air pocket that prevents direct convective loss from the inner pot. The heat is forced to transfer through the air gap and into the outer clay, where it is stored and re-radiated more slowly. Second, the outer pot stabilizes at a lower temperature, around 140 to 106 degrees Fahrenheit, which is safe to be near, safe to be in the same room with, and safe for the surrounding furniture. Third, the outer pot dramatically increases the total radiating surface area. A bare candle radiates from a flame point roughly 1 centimeter in diameter. The outer pot radiates from a surface area of over 200 square centimeters. That is a 200-fold increase in radiating area. Component 4. The metal bolt and washer assembly. A 4-inch steel bolt with 2 washers and 1 nut costs about 40 cents at any hardware store. Thread the bolt through the drainage hole of the inner pot. Secure it with washers on both sides. Repeat with the outer pot. The bolt connects the 2 pots, maintains the air gap, and, critically, conducts heat from the candle flame directly upward through the center of the assembly. The bolt becomes a heat sink, distributing thermal energy to the interior of both pots simultaneously. This is the single most important detail. Without the bolt, the candle heat rises straight up the center and escapes through the drainage hole of the outer pot. With the bolt in place, the metal absorbs and conducts the heat outward to the clay, locking it inside the assembly. Assembly. Asterisk. Place the candle on a stable, non-flammable surface. A ceramic saucer, a metal tray, a tile. Light the candle. Lower the smaller inverted pot over the candle so the bolt is centered directly above the flame but not touching it. There should be approximately 1 inch of space between the flame and the underside of the pot. Then lower the larger inverted pot over the smaller one, with washers spacing the bolt so that the 2 pots do not touch each other. Within 20 to 30 minutes, the assembly reaches operating temperature. The outer pot is hot to the touch but will not ignite anything around it. The radiant field extends approximately 3 to 4 feet in every direction. In a small room, 8 by 10 or 10 by 12 feet, with the door closed and reasonable insulation, the ambient temperature will rise between 10 and 20 degrees over the course of 2 to 3 hours. Nostric performance expectations. Asterisk. This is a supplemental heat source. It will not heat a 2,000 square foot house. It was never designed to. What it does, and what it has done for nearly a century, is heat the specific room a person is sitting in. A bedroom, a workshop, a small office, a cabin bunk, a garage workbench, a sewing room, a child's nursery on a winter night when the central heat has been turned down to save money. The assembly runs silent. It produces no fumes when operated with clean-burning paraffin or beeswax. It cannot explode. It cannot short out. It cannot be shut off by a power outage. It cannot be taxed by a utility commission. It cannot be shut down by a blizzard, an ice storm, or a grid failure. It works the same way in a Manhattan apartment with a broken radiator as it does in a Montana hunting cabin 40 miles from the nearest road. Remember, a gas furnace costs $5,000 and heats rooms you are not in. An electric space heater costs $100 and adds $300 a year to the electric bill. This system costs $2.32 and runs on a 12-cent candle, 3 pots, 1 candle, 1 bolt. 15 products and appliances made irrelevant for the room you actually occupy. Walk into any tenement apartment on the Lower East Side in 1934, any sharecropper's cabin in Mississippi, any wheat farmer's kitchen in North Dakota, any miner's row house in West Virginia. In the corner of the most used room, on a metal tray or an old plate, you would have found a small ceramic assembly, a candle, a clay pot, sometimes 2, radiating heat to the chair where the grandmother sat darning socks, or the desk where the child did homework. This was not improvisation. It was infrastructure. The 1933 edition of the Ladies' Home Journal included specific instructions for building, maintaining, and positioning these heaters. Sears Roebuck catalogs of the period sold terracotta pots specifically marked for winter indoor use. The concept was so normal that nobody thought to preserve it. Nobody writes down how to boil water. During the coldest winters of the Depression, the 1933 and 1936 seasons that broke temperature records across the Midwest, entire communities in rural America heated their homes room by room using variations of this same principle. Clay pots, iron kettles, heated stones. Nothing else was affordable. And nothing else was needed. The principle is ancient. The Romans used heated ceramic tiles under their floors for the same effect. The Koreans developed ondel underfloor heating using stone and clay more than 2,000 years ago. Persian homes used clay ovens called tandoors for combined cooking and radiant heat. In Finland, the masonry heater, a massive clay and stone structure, has been the primary home heating method for 800 years. Concentrated thermal mass heated by a small, controlled fire. The oldest heating principle known to human civilization. A candle, a pot, and a room just large enough to hold a family. And it took less than 2 decades of utility industry marketing to remove it from the American mind entirely. For $2.32, 2 terracotta pots, 1 candle, and 1 steel bolt, you can heat the room you are sitting in tonight. No gas line, no electrical draw, no service contract, no furnace. The same physics that warmed American bedrooms through the Great Depression will warm yours before the candle is halfway burned down. The complete system, including sizing charts for different room volumes, candle fuel comparisons, and safe placement diagrams, is linked in the description below. It covers heating, cooling, food preservation, cleaning, and home maintenance. Everything your great-grandparents built from scratch in one place. Tomorrow, this channel will show you the exact method your great-grandmother used to preserve a dozen eggs for 18 months. No refrigerator, no electricity, no freezer burn. And why the commercial egg industry will never repeat the name of the ingredient she used. Every product in your home once had a $0 version. They buried it. Now you know.